Hi, I'm Vicki. Welcome to Make Life Special and another visit in Vicki's kitchen. Today we're going to be cooking robust risotto. Now risotto is typically an Italian rice dish and it uses a special type of rice. It has to be a high starch rice, and today we're using arborio rice. And I want to stress in this video that all of the ingredients in this recipe are readily available. I live in a small Midwestern town and I was able to get all of these ingredients locally. So we're starting with the arborio rice. We're ramping this recipe up today to the robust level by adding shiitake mushrooms that I've sliced. And this is what the shiitake mushroom looks like. I'm adding 1/4 pound of sliced asparagus spears. And then we're going to be topping this robust risotto off with prosciutto that we have cooked until very crisp. And prosciutto is just an Italian bacon. I'll show you what it looks like. And we're going to cook that separately, and at the end add it back onto our risotto for just an extra flavorful topping. And then the rice is cooked slowly in some type of broth, either a meat, a fish, or a vegetable broth. And today we're using a low sodium chicken broth. Now it's very important when you're making risotto that the broth be hot. So this recipe uses 48 ounces of chicken broth, and I'm going to put this in the pan. I'm going to set it on the burner and heat it separately, and then we will add that to the arborio rice mixture once this is heated up. The second liquid that we're going to be using today is a white wine, and we also need to heat that up before we add it to the risotto mixture as well. And we're going to be using a half a cup of white wine. And as I've told you before, I like to use just an inexpensive drinking wine. I really don't use cooking wine specifically, but just an inexpensive drinking wine. So I'm going to set both of these on a burner and turn them on medium so they'll heat up. And when we're ready to add those to the risotto, they'll be ready to go. And to start with, we need to add 1 tablespoon of oil to the skillet. And I'm using olive oil today. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add this to the skillet. And we're going to let this heat up and saute. And we'll be back in about 3 or 4 minutes after the prosciutto is cooked crisp. I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll add our next ingredients. Okay, the prosciutto is crisp. You can see what it looks like after it's cooked about 4 or 5 minutes in a skillet. At this point, we're going to remove this from the pan because we're going to be using the same pan throughout for the cooking of the risotto today. So a little more olive oil, and we're going to add that's about 1/4 pound of asparagus, which is really not that much. It's maybe 6 or 7 spears of asparagus. Now this needs to saute in total about 5 minutes. About 3 minutes into this, I'm going to add our 1/4 pound of sliced shiitake mushrooms, and they're going to finish cooking here with the asparagus. So at this point, we're going to add our sliced shiitake mushrooms. You could really use just about any type of mushroom in this recipe that you would want to, but the main thing you want to remember in this is that as these mushrooms start to saute, they're going to release some liquid. And we do not want the liquid in the risotto, because the ultimate goal of a risotto is to have a very cheesy, creamy, I call it dreamy, risotto. Something that is just a smooth mixture. You don't want any of this extra liquid from the mushrooms in there. The asparagus and shiitake mushrooms have cooked and all of the liquid has evaporated. So now I'm going to remove these from this pan And I'm going to add about another tablespoon of olive oil, and we're going to cook our shallots and garlic for just a couple of minutes, and then we'll be adding the arborio rice to the pan and cooking it just so it gets fully coated with the oil, which is one of the basic techniques of risotto. And I'm going to be adding a tablespoon of shallots, and this is what a shallot looks like. And again, these are very readily available in all of the grocery stores. I can buy these locally. And then we're going to be adding about 2 teaspoons of chopped garlic. Okay, you can see how they look. And at this point, I'm going to stir in 1½ cups of dry arborio rice. I've already measured it out. This is 1½ cups. And I'm going to add this to the skillet. And at this point, I want to stir this rice over the heat to where all of the grains are coated with the oil. And I'm incorporating the oil with the rice, and of course stirring in the shallots and the garlic as well. This is just going to take a couple of minutes. Alright, this is what the arborio rice looks like after all of the grains are coated with the olive oil. And you can see they just glisten really with the oil, and this is the look that you want. Now we're going to start adding this hot white wine. This is 1/2 cup of white wine, and it's really going to sizzle when I add this to the pan. And that's really what we want. And I'm going to stir it very quickly. We want all of that white wine to absorb into the rice and the extra liquid to evaporate. And this just takes really less than a minute to do. And there you can see all of the white wine has either absorbed into the arborio rice or it's evaporated. Now then, we start the step of adding the hot chicken broth to the rice mixture that we have going. And we want to add this about 1/2 cup at a time. And again, your chicken stock or broth or meat or fish broth or vegetable broth, whatever you're using, needs to be very hot. And we're going to add this and stir it about 1/2 cup at a time. This is the most time-consuming part of making a risotto, but it's going to result in a very creamy texture of the risotto. I'm going to add just a little bit more and stir. Okay, I have added all of the chicken broth, 1/2 cup at a time, and you can see how beautifully this risotto is looking. The rice has absorbed all of the liquid. It's just creamy and smooth, and this is exactly the texture that you want at this point in the risotto. Now I'm going to take it off the heat, turn the heat off. I'm going to move it over to this burner where you can see what I'm doing, and the final few steps go very quickly. While I was adding the chicken broth to the risotto and stirring it, I also shredded the Parmesan cheese. So I'm going to add that now to the risotto and stir very quickly to incorporate this cheese into just a creamy, dreamy, cheesy mixture. And again, it's very important that the risotto is off the heat at this point. Now, since this is a robust risotto, as soon as the cheese is incorporated into it, I'm going to stir in the asparagus and shiitake mushrooms that we cooked at the beginning of the recipe. And here they are. And I'm just going to sprinkle those in and incorporate those into the risotto. And this added flavor is really what makes this a robust risotto. That along with the prosciutto that we're going to sprinkle on top. Look at the beautiful consistency of this. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be serving this as a first course with some Brut champagne. So I have some hot, crusty French bread in the oven. It'll be out in about 2 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and dish up the risotto. And I'm serving this in just a beautiful Italian glass bowl tonight. Sprinkle the crisp prosciutto on top. Beautiful. Here is our robust risotto that we're serving as a first course with hot, crusty French bread and a wonderful champagne. Be sure to check out my website, which is www.makelifespecial.com, for the complete recipe and also for the link for this wonderful champagne pairing. Enjoy!